وسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Before we come to the topic Gadeer khum, we want to tie up certain points regarding the Ahle Bayt. We learned yesterday that it's part of our iman to love the Ahle Bayt. Like how we love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we love the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what we are not allowed to do, we are not allowed to attribute anything to them which they didn't do themselves, which is in conflict to the Quran and Hadith. All the things that are taking place nowadays are baseless and were never done by them. Number two, the other thing which we shouldn't do, we will love the Ahli Bayt, but we will not say I only love the Ahli Bayt and therefore I hate others. So these are two signs to show when a person is now deviating. So you love the Ahli Bayt, but you don't hate anybody else. You love the Ahli Bayt and you do not attribute anything to them which they themselves never did, or which is against the Quran and Hadith. If you don't attribute those things to them, then your muhabbat for them is intact, it is correct. Now that your love is balanced and governed by the Shariat, the next point is obvious. Can a person now make dua to the Ahle Bayt? If your love is balanced and governed by the Shariat, the next point is already obvious. Can a person make dua to the Ahle Bayt? Just now, approximately 23 days ago, those who were in Hajj, what were they saying? Labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, labbaik, la sharika laka labbaik. Innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk, la sharika lak. That I am present, O Allah. I am present, O Allah. There's no partners with you. Indeed, all praise, all bounties and kingdom belongs to you. There's no partners. You have no partners. Just now, when we are making qurbani of the animal, what we were saying, Inni wajjahtu wajhiya lillahi alladhi fatara as-samawati wal arda hanifa wa ma ana minal mushrikeen. I have totally focused myself to that Allah who has originated the skies and the earth, such a straight path which has no deviations, and I'm not from the idolaters. Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin. Indeed, my salah, my rituals, my living, my dying is purely for Allah, the Rabb of the worlds. Few days after that, in the month of Muharram, now the question, can't I make dua to Ahle Bayt? Are we suffering from, forgetfulness? So, respected brothers, if we cannot stomach that reply, then let us find one place in the Quran and Hadith where the Ahle Bayt made dua to anyone else besides Allah. Find one place in the Quran and Hadith where the Ahle Bayt, Huzur Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Hazrat Ali, Hazrat Fatima, Hazrat Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhu. And as we mentioned, Ahle Bayt is very vast because Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was very generous. He even made Salman Farsi part of his family. Leave alone the 9 wives and their in-laws. Leave alone them. Even those who had no link at all was also part of his family. So now did any of them, no matter how vast it goes, and even if you want to restrict it to 5, find me one place in the Quran and Hadith where they made dua to anyone else besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one point we need to understand very clearly, that our allegiance starts with Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thereafter it comes to the Sahaba Kiram and Ahle Bayt and the Awliya Kiram and the people that the Muslims and the pious that are alive today. But if we take things the other way around and we tie our allegiance first with the pious around us, and even if it goes in conflict with the commands of Allah, the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm so aligned with what a certain khandan does or a certain pious person does, then respected brothers, this will take us somewhere else. It's not going to take us where we need to go, and that is Jannat. So our loyalties first come with Allah Ta'ala and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ahle Bayt, Sahaba Kiram, thereafter the Awliya Kiram. We have to understand that sometimes the Awliya Kiram, a pious person, may have done something out of a circumstance. For example, Hazrat Sufi Sahib, clearly in his kitab, Hazrat Sufi Sahib and his Khankas, on page 67, it is written, Hazrat Sufi Sahib, when he came to Durban in the year 1895, where the Muslims were in the minority, he faced tremendous obstacles and challenges, and he faced many difficult situations. Alhamdulillah, he was able to win over the Muslims without harming the excellent relationship that existed between the Muslims and non-Muslims. In fact, he brought them closer, each living their own lives. One such delicate situation was when he discovered that many Muslims followed the annual Kavadi procession of the Hindus, while some took an active part in it. Hazrat Sufi Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi introduced the Tazia. This proved very successful. Thousands of Muslims used to gather at Riverside. And he used this. He also, when people used to play the duf, the drum, Hazrat did not stop them except for Zohar Salah. He used this occasion to teach people about wudu and namaz and du'as. What do we understand? That a pious person may have done or introduced something out of a certain circumstance. If we're going to hold on to that thing lifelong, then was that the real reason why it was initiated in the very first place? Now, if a person opens his mind and understands why it was initiated, because the Muslims were in minority and they were weak on their deen, that there was a need to teach them basic du'as, wuzu and ghusl, etc., etc., then you understood that that was not the object. That was for a certain time. There is the history of the Sikhs. How did the Sikhs come about? It's an offshoot of the Hindu religion. There was a pious man who went and tried working amongst the Hindus and slowly tried to bring them. That is why the Sikhs till today will tie that turban. That pious man at that time probably had a very long beard and he had a turban on his head. And till today in this, according to the Sikhs, you will find 3 out of the 5 pillars of Islam, which they practice in a very, very small way. There is a resemblance to Salah. There is a resemblance to Zakat. There is a resemblance to fasting. You will find the Sikhs fast also like how we fast. But before it could reach termination, before they could be educated properly, that pious person passed away, and that is where everything stayed and remained. However, can the Sikhs ever tell Allah Ta'ala on the day of Qiyamah that we were taught by your friend and he only taught us that much, so that is why we only know that much? Will that excuse be valid? Allah Ta'ala will tell them, there were so many other Muslims around, why didn't you go and complete your learning process? So sometimes a pious person will initiate something, but it's not pending on him. We in the Shariat are commanded to follow a Nabi, not any specific ummati. Throughout the Quran and Hadith, you will find following who? Following a Nabi is compulsory. Ati'ullah wa ati'ur Rasul. Now we're going to follow ummatis and individuals. How many awliya kiram has come into this world? Thousands and millions of awliya kiram. If every one of them had to initiate something, every wali had come to revive the sunnah. Secondly, respected brothers, another point to keep in mind, tying up yesterday's discussion, and maybe we'll leave Gadeer khum for tomorrow. Was there any tazia or matam for the previous Anbiya alayhimus salam? Everyone can answer this question. There was no such thing. Was there any tazia and matam for Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam? The greatest loss that the ummah ever suffered was the passing away of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It was never heard of. Was there any tazia and matam for any other sahabi, for Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, whom Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Arhamu ummati, the most merciful in this ummah? Huh? Was there any taziyah for Hazrat Umar, for Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu? Hazrat Umar was stabbed in Masjidun Nabawi whilst he was in Salah, buried right next to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No taziyah for him, no mourning for him every year. Was it for Hazrat Uthman, who was brutally killed, where they couldn't even do a proper janaza namaz in the open? They couldn't even do a proper janaza namaz in the open. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam once told Hazrat Uthman, shoot this arrow. And the arrow, he shot an arrow quite far away from Masjidun Nabawi. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, you'll be buried there. Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu, something to, if I knew that is where I'm going to bury, I'll shot it right down. Right by my foot. Now, the point, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was about to be martyred that night, the day after that he was martyred, the night before that, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam came in his dream, oh Uthman, be patient, tomorrow you're going to make iftar with me. So if you said Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there at Karbala, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam came in the dream of Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned so many virtues regarding Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu. We're not looking at that. Where was the matam for him? Where was the taziyah for him? How brutally he was killed? Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, the father of Hazrat Hussein radiallahu anhu, he was also martyred on the way to the masjid for Fajr Salah, and he was martyred. Where's the taziyah and the matam for him? Respected brothers, this title Sayyidul Shuhada they're using for Hazrat Hussein radiallahu anhu, where you got that title from? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave this title to who? To Hazrat Hamza radiallahu anhu. You stole it from Hazrat Hamza, the uncle of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you use it for the grandson. Daylight robbery. How brutally Hazrat Hamza radiallahu anhu was martyred. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam cried continuously. So many times Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam made dua and janaza salah for Hazrat Hamza radiallahu anhu. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam continuously cried. Every time he thought of Hazrat Hamza, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would cry. The leader of all the martyrs till the day of Qiyamah is Hazrat Hamza radiallahu anhu. Yet there was no matam, no taziyah. Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu, the brother of Hazrat Hussein radiallahu anhu, was poisoned by the same extreme lovers of Hazrat Hussein radiallahu anhu. They poisoned Hazrat Hassan. Why did they have to poison Hazrat Hassan? Part of the Panjatan. Why did they poison him? Because he handed over the Khilafah to Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. How could you do a thing like that? They went and poisoned him. Whereas Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had prophesied, this grandson of mine will bring about peace between two Muslim parties. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam called those two parties Muslims. Check the hadith. Today we don't want to accept it because we pick and choose. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam prophesies that he's going to do something good. We go and poison him. Where's the matam and the taziyah for him? So respected brothers, if Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam has to ask me on the day of Qiyamah, Abdullah, why didn't you do matam and taziyat? I will say, O Nabi of Allah, you didn't do it for all the Sahaba that passed away in your zamana, or the Anbiya alayhimus salam that passed away in the zamana before you. Neither did the Sahaba Kiram, neither did the Ahle Bayt themselves ever do this. If Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam has to ask you, why did you do this? If you say, my forefathers did it, or a certain Khandan and a saint did it, would that excuse be valid? Something to think about. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all correct understanding. There is little time remaining. In Gadeer khum in a nutshell. Gadeer khum in a nutshell. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was sent by Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam to a certain place to invite people to Islam. Other Sahaba were also there. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, he gained victory in that expedition and they were distributing the spoils of war. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, based on the teachings of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, distributed it and was very quickly wanted to join Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam in Hajj. That was the farewell Hajj of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. There were a few Sahaba there who were not happy on how he distributed the whole thing. Huh? So they were not happy with it. They came to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and they complained to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam after Hajj came to a certain place on his return. Now these Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu and the rest of the Sahaba were to go in a different direction. So now they at this place and the complaints are coming to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is what Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu had done. Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told the Sahaba radiallahu anhu that like how you respect me, man kunta mawlahu fa'aliyun mawla, or kama qala Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, approximate words, who regards me as their master, you should regard Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu as your master also. Why did Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say that? Because some people undermined the decision of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. Who sent Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu there as a leader of that expedition? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now they need to listen to their Amir. That is why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had given the virtues on this occasion. And that was it. It's a simple, straightforward expedition mentioned in all the authentic kitabs. In most of the authentic kitabs. What hasn't took place, which people imagine that at this occasion Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told Hazrat Abu Bakr, called Hazrat Umar, made them take bet on the hands of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu that don't forget, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu will be the Khalifa after me. And if there was like, oh Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, you are to me like how Harun alayhi salam was to Musa alayhi salam. Authentic hadith, but it was not mentioned on this occasion. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was left behind on one expedition. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went back. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu felt sad about it. I'm left behind, everybody is going in jihad. Be so to console him. No. Like how Harun alayhi salam was left behind when Musa alayhi salam took a group and went to speak to Allah Ta'ala. I'm leaving you in charge here. It's not that you are left with the ladies. Now everything, if you keep it within context, you find harmony, makes sense, and there's peace and love. Pull it out of context, then Islam is about duck and dive. No, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam couldn't make that announcement in Arafat where all the Muslims are there. You know why? They could be the enemies of Islam and the conspire. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was so scared about people will conspire because Hazrat Ali is the next Khalifa. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was scared. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was scared. So when you look at things from a different angle, that why it never took place in Arafat and the enemies, they feared the enemies and all it don't make sense. The mission of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was successful. Allah Ta'ala revealed the last surah of the Quran, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. Victory and the help of Allah Ta'ala has come. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, before he passed away, he saw Hazrat Abu Bakr as the Imam, Sahaba behind him. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam smiled, such a broad smile, Sahaba almost broke their salah. That shows you the mission of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has been successful. But when you look at things from certain made up narrations, then you see that Islam was a total failure in the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam feared, and then Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu couldn't do anything because he feared. It don't make sense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all correct understanding. Any questions?